Thank you, President. Mr. Svoboda's already done it, but let me say it again. Let me congratulate the Liberal in you, if you don't mind. I don't want to create problems with your socialist friends, but your struggle in favour of marriage for all is a step forward. It's a new freedom, and it's at the heart of the battle that we're trying to fight in our group. Thank you very much. 60 years ago, Jean Monnet said, "We're bringing together men, we're not bringing together states." And in fact, that's still true, Mr. President. Our union only has a meaning if it becomes a federation of peoples and nations, which is what Winston Churchill called the United States of Europe. And for Jean Monnet, and for Winston Churchill, of course, this union was a distant dream, a mirage almost. But today, it's become, I would say, a duty, a crucial duty for the very survival of Europe. Because in today's world, it's not just a planet of 200 nation states, it's a kind of conglomeration of powerful federations, empires, civilizations. Look at China. China's not a nation, China's a civilization. India's not a nation, it's a continent with 2,000 different ethnicities, 22 languages, and at least 4 major religions. And the United States is a multicultural country, one par excellence. Europe hasn't got a future unless, as you said, Mr. President, we move towards being a federation, I would say an empire, but an empire in the good sense of the word. And a European civilization, people deny the existence of Europe. It's not some kind of chimera. It needs to be something we should be able to see from the Volga to the Atlantic. And let's be honest with our citizens and our voters. How can we sort out the financial crisis? How can we sort out the economic recession? Climate change. These are all issues which require concerted action, an overall approach going beyond the borders of national sovereignty. What we need to say to our citizens today is that it's at Europe level that sovereignty must be put together again. We should defend our interests, because that's the only level in tomorrow's world where that sovereignty can even be exercised. And, Mr. President, I think of all the member states in the EU, it's France and the UK who understood hundreds of years ago that uniting their territory, their public administration could be good for their citizens. And France has a vocation, I'd say a duty even, to move that forward, that unification at continental level. Just as parishes disappeared in the concert of nations in the 19th century, nations will no longer be dominant in the 21st century. So, here, there is a battle which is going to be fought on Friday. And after what Joseph Daul said, I wonder what you've got left to talk about. But the future financing of the EU, we shouldn't forget the financial problems that we're going through. But could you perhaps, is it so hard, Mr. President, is it so hard to get your colleagues to understand that in times of austerity it's better to pool the resources we have rather than renationalising European policies? Let's just give you a few examples. Defence, diplomacy, research, innovation. There are dozens of billions which we could save by working together in an enhanced European budget, just as there are millions which could be saved if we want to start discussions on the seat of the European institutions. Unfortunately, what's happening is the opposite of that. There's a political short-sightedness which reigns in Europe at the moment. And there is actual budget fraud which is going to be perpetrated on Friday, I fear. Because, colleagues, the commitments are going to be put at the level desired by the cohesion countries for commitments, and payments at the level desired by contributor countries. The result, obviously, is this famous 60 billion deficit, 60 plus the 16 we already had at the beginning, so that's 76 billion. 76 billion euros. And whether I say it in a French accent or a Belgian one, it stays exactly the same. So there's a massive problem. And it might be odd for me as a Liberal to ask you as a President, Mr. Socialist, to say no. Please say no. Let's say no together. No to an irresponsible financial framework. No to a financial framework which simply isn't up to the job of meeting the challenges which we face. That's what's at stake on Friday. And finally, let me come back to the question of Mali. You heard, I'm sure, the round of applause when you talk about the decisions that you'd taken. It's just not on that a jihadi regime should take power in Bamako. But let me talk about another tragedy. Syria. We've had 2 years of horror, tens of thousands of deaths, hundreds of thousands of displaced persons and refugees, and every day that we let go by without helping the insurgents is going eventually to help the Islamists. Because it's the jihadis who might well end up winning. That's why I beg you, Mr. President, we can talk about that perhaps on Friday as well, rather than this mistaken budget. We need to provide huge amounts of humanitarian aid. We need to set up a no-fly zone in northern Syria. And if we aren't bold enough to do that, let's at least give the people the weapons so that they can defend themselves in this terrible situation. You were greeted as a liberator in Mali, Mr. President. And I hope that with your colleagues you'll be able to become a hero in Syria too. Thank you very much.